AI is transforming healthcare into a multi-billion-dollar industry. But how exactly is AI transforming the healthcare industry? In this video, I'm going to explore top 23 funded AI healthcare startups that raised billions of dollars in venture capital this year. Through this, you'll learn the latest trend that is driving the healthcare industry, how AI disrupts your own market, and how PMs turn tech into a money-earning business. Hello, my name is Eric, and this is AI with Eric Kim. Before we dive into the different startups, we need a concrete framework to evaluate where in the healthcare industry the companies are making an impact and how. To do that, I'll need to talk about the healthcare industry value chain first. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the value chain, it simply refers to the step-by-step process where a business takes raw materials and adds value to them at every stage to create a final product. For example, the value chain of a fast food restaurant starts with sourcing raw ingredients from suppliers, moving to cooking the food in the kitchen, and finally ends up with packaging and serving the meal to the customer. As you know, healthcare industry consists of a variety of key stakeholders, such as patients, care providers, such as doctors and nurses, payers, such as insurers, insurance companies, government employers, producers of medicine such as pharma, medtech, digital healthcare, and policymakers such as CDC and FDA. Therefore, the value chain of the healthcare industry tends to be pretty complex. So let me give you a very concise version. It starts with R&D, the research and development, and it moves on to the diagnosis, the treatment and intervention, clinical workflow and documentation, and financing and payment. There is actually one more step between R&D and diagnosis, which is the production and supply of medications, devices, and services, but I'm going to omit this because that step is out of scope for this video. Based on this value chain, I categorized the top 23 companies and their products to one of these steps. This allows us to evaluate the current landscape and the type of impact the companies are trying to make in the healthcare industry. Now, before we jump on to the list, I want to add a quick disclaimer. So I've categorized these startups into specific steps to make it easy to understand. But in reality, the most ambitious AI companies don't exactly stay in one box. Many of them are evolving from point solutions, which is solving just one problem, such as documentation, into integrated platforms that connect multiple steps, like bridging the gap between the clinical notes and billing. Therefore, it might not make sense for a particular company to belong in just one category. What I tried to do was categorize it in the most relevant one. So keep in mind that as we move through the list, because of this shift from point solutions to connection, this is exactly where the AI industry is heading. By the way, if you have been watching this video so far, I hope it means that you like what I'm doing. If that's true, please hit that subscribe button and the like button below. It definitely helps with the algorithm to show my content to a wider audience, which will be a great motivation for me to make better videos and show you. So what happens in the R&D stage? First of all, this is about the basic biomedical research, such as the disease mechanisms, genetics, and biomarkers. And the researchers discover and develop the drug and device. Therefore, universities, research institutes, pharma and biotech, medical device companies are all part of the companies that make up this value chain step. And this creates value of new ways to prevent, diagnose, and treat diseases. But how has AI actually disrupted this stage? So AI was able to make this step much more efficient by compressing the timelines of the development by predicting molecular targets and drug viability in months, which used to take much longer years and spent a lot of time and money. These 7 companies are categorized in the R&D stage of the value chain. Companies like Orbital Therapeutics, Pathos AI are transforming the drug discovery process. They use AI to accelerate drug discovery and reduces the massive failure rate. To be more specific, Orbital Therapeutics uses AI and robotics to model molecular interactions and predict which experimental drugs will work, which accelerates the R&D pipeline and uses AI to design RNA sequences and LNPs that can precisely target specific cells. And this increases the programmability of medicines and reduces the trial and error rate in the drug design. And you might also know about Neuralink, which was founded by Elon Musk. This company uses AI to decode neuronal spikes in real time, which translates thought into digital action and effectively solves the input and output problem of the human brain. In total, these 7 companies have gained over $2.8 billion of funding this year. The next stage is the diagnosis stage. So what happens here is patients make visits to the primary care doctors or consult with specialists, and doctors go through lab tests, imaging, genetic testing, and remote monitoring to accurately diagnose the diseases. So who's involved would be the hospitals, clinicians, and nurses, and this creates value of accurate diagnosis of patient disease. However, through AI, doctors are able to detect critical findings in seconds, which improves the speed and accuracy of the care. These 2 companies belong in this category of diagnosis. AI Doc provides always-on triage. This is an AI layer that sits on top of the radiology systems. This scans CT and MRI images in the background and flags the critical abnormalities before a radiologist even opens up the file. This ensures the sickest patients are diagnosed first. Together, these 2 companies make up $318 million of funding this year. The next stage is the treatment and interventions. Here, after doctors diagnose the disease, they provide medications, surgeries, and procedures to the patient. They also conduct chronic disease management programs and also conduct rehabilitation, physical therapy, counseling, and sometimes provide digital health interventions for the patients. The key stakeholders involved would be the same as before: hospitals, clinicians, and nurses. And the value created through the stage would be the improved health outcomes, reduced symptoms, and better quality of life. AI disrupts this step by providing an efficient method of care, and some digital tools virtually caring for patients as well. There are 5 companies that belong in this category among the top 23 companies most funded this year. Hippocratic AI creates AI agents, such as AI nurses and nutritionists, that can handle the low acuity patient calls for discharging follow-up and chronic disease checks. This creates a scalable and infinite supply of labor to address the global healthcare staffing shortage. Hinge Health is another company that belongs to this category. Hinge Health uses AI to provide personalized and tech-enabled physical therapy, primarily through its AI care assistant called Robin, and computer vision for exercise guidance. This company leverages AI to enhance its care team by automating the routine task, summarizing charts, and assisting with member triage. And their computer vision provides objective movement assessments for tracking progress. We can see that $454 million were funded to these 5 companies this year. The fourth stage is the clinical workflow and documentation stage. What happens here is the structured and unstructured recording of what happened during the clinical workflow. The physicians, nurses, or care managers, their medical assistants, front desk staff, and schedulers record the clinical workflow and document them. So the value created would be the well-designed workflows to reduce missed steps and the checklist, order sets, and standardized pathways for the better care of the patients. AI disrupts this step by listening to patient visits and automating the charting. This reduces the largest source of clinical friction caused by numerous time and money spent in this step. There are 6 companies that belong in this category among the top 23 most funded startups this year. Abridge records patient-doctor conversations and uses LLMs to automatically generate structured clinical notes in real time. This eliminates after-hours charting for doctors. Another company called Open Evidence works like a ChatGPT for doctors. This product is trained solely on high-quality medical literature. It allows clinicians to ask complex medical questions at the point of care and procure cited, evidence-based answers instantly. This replaces hours of up-to-date searching for the clinicians. It acts as an AI co-pilot for doctors to help them make high-stake decisions at the point of care in a much faster time. For this stage, about $1.3 billion of money were funded to these 6 startups. The last stage is the financing and payment stage. What happens here is the insurance plan design for the benefits, co-pays, and networks, and the claims processing and prior authorization. So the public payers such as Medicare, Medicaid, national health systems, and private insurers, employers, and sometimes patients who pay out of the pocket are involved in stage. This creates value by allocating money across the chain and shapes incentives for the key stakeholders and the patients. AI has disrupted stage by automatically processing claims, verifying coverage, and auditing billing. This disruption of AI captures billions of dollars in lost revenue. There are three companies that belong to this category. One of them, Judy Health, simplifies the insurance claims. So normally, pharmacy insurance and medical insurance are handled by completely different systems that don't talk to each other. However, Judy Health uses AI to bring them together into one place. It automatically handles approval requests and fixes errors in insurance claims as they happen. This makes the whole process smoother for both doctors and insurance companies. The three companies that belong to this category make up $875 million in funding for this year. So far, I showed you how these startups use AI to transform the healthcare industry. However, there's another key insight that you need to remember. There was a McKinsey report just published a week ago, which argues that AI healthcare tools is making a shift from point solutions to a more integrated architecture called a modular architecture. So most of the startups that we've seen before are point-based solutions. They aim to solve a specific problem in the healthcare value chain. However, the problem is that this causes disconnection and friction within the clinical environment. Therefore, this McKinsey insight argues how the modular solution is more important. Let me give you some examples from the startups we looked at. Like I said, Hinge Health focuses only on physical therapy using computer vision, while Vivodyne focuses entirely on growing organs in labs for drug testing. Each of these is valuable on its own, but without a way to connect them together, they're just isolated islands of innovation that create disconnection in the clinical environment. So a modular solution isn't just one giant centralized system. Instead, it's an AI native architecture that is designed to integrate different components into a unified whole. The domain-specific AI models, the intelligent agents, and protocols that some of these companies have are the key components that make up this modular solution. One example of this is Commure, which belonged in the financing and payment category. So Commure shows this shift towards modularity by connecting the clinical documentation directly to billing. Instead of a doctor's note sitting in isolation, Commure's platform automatically generates claims and manages denials based on the data, removing this gap between the care and the payment. So what's important to remember is that these products should not act in isolation from each other, but they should be integrated into a whole new platform that is communicating effectively to each other and generates a very smooth and frictionless environment in the clinical setting. So how do we as product managers turn this into an opportunity? If the industry is moving from point solutions to modular architecture, the biggest uncaptured value isn't building another diagnostic tool. It should be building the control tower. First of all, it can have like the orchestration layer. We would need product that would act as managers for all these AI agents. You can imagine a dashboard that doesn't manage people, but manage the handoff between the scribe AI and the billing AI. Second, we can think of the interoperability as a product. So there is a huge monetization opportunity in building the APIs and protocols that allow these siloed apps to speak the same language. So as a PM, you can ask yourself whether you are building a tool that is solving one specific problem, or you are building the conductor that orchestrates the symphony of different problems. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon on the next video.